little bit late. Oh yeah, we're live. It's just always something with this Google stuff, you know? Hey, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm super excited to be talking about TrueFire, talking about, oh, that's the sound I'm supposed to turn down. I got you. Okay, how do we do that? Like this. Echo gone? I think the echo is gone now. Test? No, I can't figure it out. Wolf, if you're hearing this and you can help me, that'd be the bomb. Oh no, maybe it is working. Maybe it is working. It's just the delay. I think it's working. Okay, everybody, somebody give me some love through the chat, please. Nope, not working. I hear Wolf, come in here if you would, because I get a terrible echo. And we will sort this. All right, guys. Somebody give me some love through the chat so I know I have this figured out. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm getting an echo in here. Test, test, test. It's like a 15 delay echo. I guess so, yeah. Maybe you can turn that down. But then I can't hear the background tracks, right?
But no, we don't have the background track in the feedback.
Okay.
It's gonna come.
Turn down the volume on the YouTube player. Well, I did.
The volume on there is fine.
I did. The volume on the YouTube player is at 0. That's the thing. I did. The volume is at 0 here.
Oh, it comes in.
It's our routing, Jeff. It's our routing.
I'm not sure that it is.
Test, test, test. We're working on it, guys. Sounds good on your end? Is that the truth? Somebody give me a heads up. If I play a track, can I hear it? I can't see. Oh yeah, I can.
No, you can only when I turn it up, see.
Yeah, and then I have echo, right? Can we have the thing come through here?
Yeah.
Can you set that up for me so I can get started? Thank goodness for help. And cats. Okay, guys, we almost have it sorted here. I want to talk about pentatonics today because I was yesterday on a chatting board and people were saying,
oh, jeez.
that's not going the right direction.
Yeah, so it's not our routing, it's something with the YouTube.
Can we? Yeah, well, I can make the YouTube go through
That's the only other option that we had. That
check 1, 2. Is this working? Okay, I'll just deal without tracks, I guess. Right? Because now I can't hear them, right? Is there a way this can come through the computer? Sorry, guys, working on it. Working on it. Can we route transcribe through here?
You can play the tracks from another computer.
That takes too long to set up, I think. Yeah, all right. Can we, hang on guys, give me one more chance to sort this here. It has to do with the YouTube thing, yeah. But isn't sound transcribe should give me the option of, no, switch this off, I can't hang with that. Transcribe should give me the option to play it through, no. All right, I guess we'll do without tracks. Where are we? Here. Okay. Okay, everybody. Can you hear what you hear? Everything is fine. Want to see your cool stuff from here in the Maldives. Seriously? Wow. Where's everybody else from? Give me a quick where you're from. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Say this as an encouragement. Hey, yeah, you're right. What if the band just left you? You know, they're just on break. They can't they can't contribute. So here we go. Now I'm going to get started. We have folks from Langley, Oklahoma, London, West Palm Beach. It was my birthday yesterday, folks. So I'm in a super great mood. I'm also stoked to be here on TrueFire. I was gonna say, so I was on a board yesterday, and people were talking about pentatonics. And you know, if you start Googling pentatonics, there's so much misinformation out there. It's almost scary. So what's important to me is set a few things straight, because pentatonics can sound sort of right if you just play a couple of box shapes up and down. But it's really important that we use them correctly and have a little bit of finesse to it, and not just box shape things up and down and up and down and down and up the fretboard. So that's what's important to me. But here is what's the deal on pentatonics. Oh, I'm getting a lot of birthday wishes. Thanks, y'all. Alabama, South Carolina, Puerto Rico, Pittsburgh, Pakistan. Wow. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. So why are pentatonics so awesome? See, the way that pentatonics are being used many times is, I shouldn't say evolved, but pentatonic scales exist in many, many cultures. But the way pentatonics are so cool is that we kick the bad notes out of the family. When I used to teach kids music, right? And we would give them those little xylophones, and they're all in C. It's always in C, you know, for kids often. And so what we did is I tell them, take out fish and bananas. F and B, take out F and B. Those are the two notes that potentially clash. And you eliminate those out of the repertoire, you're going to end up having only notes that sound great, right? So that's the secret of pentatonics. Now, what I just said is true for the major pentatonic. What notes are you left with when you kick out F and B out of the family? And F and B, they form, by the way, a tritone, which is kind of a cool tidbit here. Right? They form a tritone. So if you have a scale without the tritone, you get this. Now, to me, it's always important that when I play on the bass, I'm having my 5-string here, but pretend the string's not here. Okay, I'll leave that out to make it even playing field for 4-string players. But what we have is, what we want to do on the fretboard is we don't just want to go from the lowest to the highest note, but we want to go all the way to the end of my last string in that position. And if I do that, I make the range of my playing bigger, and it helps me massively to not have to jump around all the time. So if you only know things from the root to the root, that's pretty limiting. So I always recommend you start on the root so that you hear it, go all the way up to the end, and hey, that's another root. So in this case, that's easy. But then I turn around, go all the way back down to the end, and go back to the root. Right? Here of perfect circle. So I've heard of the circle of fifths, of course. I don't know what you mean by the perfect circle. But actually, here's an interesting tidbit about the pentatonic. The pentatonic scale is snapped right out of the cycle. If you go through the circle or cycle of fifths, you can find a pentatonic scale. Did you get it to work well? No. Okay, thanks. Thank you though. So if you just look into the cycle, like I have one behind me, but I don't think you can see that. It might be glaring, but it's C. It's not in order, right? But if I just play fifths, I'm going to end up with a pentatonic scale. Watch. C. I told you the note names before, right? C, D, E, G, A, C, right? So C, G, D, those are all fifths. So I'm just going through the cycle of fifths right now. A, E, right? Those are 5 notes out of the cycle. That spells a pentatonic scale. It's just reshuffled. I'm not doing it in fifths anymore. I'm doing them in order. So that's a way to think of the pentatonic scale. Oh, I hear it's a band. Cool. Need to check that out. Perfect circle. Got it. Will do. So here is that's one of the secrets of the pentatonics. You know, they are everywhere. They kick the bad notes out of the family, and they are in the cycle. They show right up. It's just the snippet out of the cycle. Anywhere you go, take five notes out of the cycle, and that will spell a pentatonic scale. You just have to reshuffle them. And there's a major version and a minor version, and that's where a lot of people get things a little bit wrong. So you know that major and minor is related, right? So C major belongs to what minor scale? Somebody put that in the chat. I love theory, guys. I love theory because theory can help you play better, and I'll show you today how it does that for those of you who need that persuasion. But so if you, what's the parallel, what's not parallel, what's the relative minor that goes with C major? Anybody? A minor. Hey, Brian, cool. Right on. Yes, lots of you guys got it. I know there's a delay, so A minor. So if I take those same notes and just relate them to the A, all of a sudden this beautiful major thing now turns minor. Same notes, but now I'm starting on minor. And that's funky, right? So they belong together, but we couldn't, if I play C major first and then go into A minor, it's a bit hard to hear the difference because the C is so dominant in our ears, we still sort of hear the C major. But I can make you hear it if we use the same note as a root. And the way we do that is to use the C as the root. Now here's another question that you guys can think about. If I use C minor, C as the root, what's the major scale that goes with that? So I'm going to start my C minor pentatonic on C. And I want to know from you guys what the corresponding major pentatonic would be. Okay? And in the meantime, until the delay has sorted itself out, I'm going to play you the C major pentatonic again. And then the C minor pentatonic as a contrast. I did the same thing earlier with A. Yep, a bunch of you guys got it right. E flat. Yeah, you were close, Richard. Just 1/2 step off. I'll show you a quick trick how you can always find the major and the minor on the bass. Find your minor scale on the first finger, let's say A. On the same string, pinky finger has your major. Boom. You'll never forget how to find the relative major or minor. Depending on which one you have, I always think it's like the opposite as you'd hope it would be. You'd hope the pinky finger would be minor because minor is smaller, but it's not. It's exactly the opposite. So first finger, 1 finger per fret style. You just go up 1 finger per fret, and then you have the first finger is the minor, and the pinky finger is the major. And then you will always know that's true for A and C, and it's also true for C and E flat. And if you ever forget which finger is which, well, you never forget A and C, right? You just know that. C major has A minor, but if somebody asks you something nasty like D flat major, what's the minor that goes with that? Well, you go, okay, somebody gave me the major. That's my major, B flat minor. There we go. So that's the secret of major and minor pentatonics. And it's a good one to keep in mind because a lot of people I hear play and talk about, these major and minor deals as if they were interchangeable. They are not, except for exceptions. So we'll get to that in a little while because I want to talk about soloing over chords, and there are scenarios where you can actually use either the major or the minor pentatonic. So I'll get to that in a little minute. I just want to show you very briefly, and this is I just want to show you this because I am just so happy and proud of it. This is something I did on Pentatonics for TrueFire a couple of years ago, Pentatonic Playground for bass. And we talk about all these shapes. I'm showing you 2 shapes today. And I'm showing you 2 shapes. I haven't even showed you the shapes yet. Let me do that right now. So I'm showing you 2 shapes, but there are 5 total. Okay, but 2 out of 5 you're getting today, and one is this major shape. I've basically shown you, and I've mentioned that I like to go all the way down and all the way up to the end of the instrument. Okay, again, this string is not here, but we have that little box here and that big box here, and I heard somebody talk about box shapes once, and I thought, that's a good visual. I like that. Little box, call that a little box, just those 4 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then big box. Now that's my major, C major pentatonic, and as wicked as it is, we have the big box, little box shape for the C minor pentatonic. So check this out. I'm starting on C here for the C minor, right? Which is this scale that I played earlier. If I extend it all the way down, I get big box, little box, right? So little box, big box. So if I start from the lowest note, then I get little box, big box. If I start from the lowest note for the minor, I get big box, little box. You just need to reshuffle the fingers because the little box on the minor is 1 3 1 3. The little box on the major is 2, 4, 2, 4. Okay? And with those shapes, you always need to know where the roots are. You need to know that because if you ever have to transpose anything or go to a different key, then you have to know where your roots are, because that will tell you the keys. Any questions, guys? Pop them in there anytime. Pentatonic theory. What did you just say? Please repeat. Anything you need, just let me know. Okay, so that's those two shapes, and I wanted to show you how to practice those because, just playing them up and down, good. That's one great way of knowing them and hearing them and getting the sound to them. But one good way of practicing them is to play them in systematic ways. I'm going to show you a couple of exercises that you can do that are super helpful. Pentatonics are nice technically because you always have 2 notes per string, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's nice because we have 2 fingers, right? Or if you were to play with a pick, it's down, up, or up, down, whatever you want to, wherever you want to start. But it's always 2 per string, and that's nice. And in a way, that's often easier than, for example, triads. If I play a lot of triads, then I have sometimes 1 note and sometimes 2, and that always means we have to figure out what we do with that right hand. Or there are irregular scales can sometimes have two notes per string and sometimes 3. So there's always this asymmetry in the right hand. We have to figure out index and middle. Post some questions, guys. Yes. Oh, guitar players are very welcome. We're bass guitar players after all, right? So I want to show you a couple of ways how to practice these technically. And what the cool thing is also, you get a lot of payoff practicing these, because when you have this stuff under your fingers, it comes out in solos, grooves, fills. You want to practice that stuff and have it ready to go, and it will, come your way when you are looking for inspiration. So one of such exercises is groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Basically, all I'm doing is I'm starting on the lowest note. And then I keep going like 1, 2, 3, go up in a group of 3, and then I go back to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And an excellent way to practice this stuff, for example, is if you say the scale degrees. Now let me just briefly go into those scale degrees. I said in major that it's the major scale without the 4 and 7, fish and bananas, F and B and C, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, right? Because that's what's left over. So if I start down here, I would have 5, 6, 1, 6, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 5, 3, 5, 6, 5, 6, 8. You can play little games with yourself. Are you able to say every single scale degree as you play these groups of 3? It's great technically, and it's great to for your mind. And then here is a little twist. You can start these groups of 3s from the bottom, or you can start them from the top. What I mean by that is rather than going G, A, C or 5, 6, 1, I'm starting on the 1 and then go down 1, 6, 5, right? So I can do that 1, 6, 5, 2, 1, 6. And if it's too hard for you to say those scale degrees or finding the notes, here's a trick. Say only the one that switches. So it's like you would be saying the first one of the 3. So it would be like in this case 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. That helps a lot of people find their place, especially when we go backwards. 5, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5. Right? And then you try to get this stuff up to tempo. It's great for the fingers because we're constantly string crossing here in the left. I want to point that out too. When you guys are doing these shapes, especially in the groups of 3, right? Oh, actually more in the groups of 4. Let me show you the groups of 4. So we have groups of 4, same idea, just you do 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then backwards. Right? So you can do 2, and again, you can say the fingerings, you can say note names, you can say scale degrees, but it does help if you go with scale degrees. So 5 6 1 6 1 2 1 5 6 5 6 1 2 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 5 2 3 5 6 3 5 6 8, right? And backwards. And again, like with this other exercise, you can do it from the top down. So you would turn it around, start the group of 4 from the top. Right? And those things come in handy when you're playing a solo and you need to you want to play a run, you want to get from point A to point B, and you don't want to do that just by going, you want to go, and then you resolve it somehow. So this stuff will show up. I practice these things, and then when I least expect them in a solo, all of a sudden, oh, there it is, you know. So it has real musical application, and it helps you shed the scale. And of course, you want to do that in major and in minor. By the way, y'all have a handout. Did y'all get that handout? That has those box shapes on there with pretty colors. So I sent that off, and maybe you guys can post that in there, and it'll help you, follow along. What I haven't talked about yet are the scale degrees in the minor. I want to go through that really quickly. And the scale degrees in the minor, they are different, of course, because now I start, even though the notes are the same as the major, right? Just going through that real quickly again. If I start on the A, which is the minor, what scale degrees do I get? Then I get 1, because now the A would be the minor, not the C. I get 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and the root. Oh, cool. Thanks for posting the asset that goes with this. I appreciate that. Cool. We have a question here from Jason. A brand new started last week. Hey, cool. Right on. Some of this probably over my head. Should I learn this or start something different? Jason, Pentatonics is a great place to start. So this is just a one-off seminar where you get ideas and hopefully inspiration, and get to see some new things and experience some educators. But I would definitely say that Pentatonics is pretty essential, and also beginner-friendly stuff. The reason why I'm saying that again is because you have 2 notes per string, and so it's fairly accessible in that sense. It's also because there are no bad sounding notes. I'll show you some exercises where you can just play around with things a little bit, and there's no bad sounding notes, so we're gonna be good. I just remembered, even though we have no tracks, I have my looper. Do I have my looper? I think I do. Hopefully I'm not going to blast you guys away just now, but I could just lay down a chord. No, or maybe not. This is not rigged up. Okay, but I wanted to show you what it sounds like when you play a pentatonic over a chord, because there are no bad sounding notes again, and so. But I think it's very beginner-friendly material. And also a lot of songs, I see a lot of students who come and don't know names for things, but they have played a pentatonic, Play that funky music, right? For example, that would be an example for a minor pentatonic from the top down. So you have them show up in music everywhere. And a lot of folks just don't know the names for things. But they have most certainly played minor pentatonics. So as soon as you're going to start learning your first couple of songs, those things will show up, and it's very empowering to go, oh, that thing, pentatonic, got it, 1 2 3 4 5, minor third 4 5 flat 7, got it. So I think it's definitely hang in there, because for today, Jason, because we're going to do some beginner friendly stuff. And welcome to the world of bass. I'm thrilled you're joining us low enders here. Great, Hannah. Cool. So it seeps out in your playing by repetition practice. Sorry for late question. Oh, no worries. So yeah, I just find that, I practice a lot of technical bits, with regular scales, with pentatonics, and they will show up in my playing, absolutely. You know, all of a sudden, you know, I will find myself and because I practice that a lot, this will just come my way, you know. The other thing I wanted to say earlier, there's a ton of string crossing happening when you do these groups of 4. Watch this. You have this going on, and then you jump to the lower note, right? That's technically a pretty heavy-duty event. So that is something I practiced a lot. Now, a lot of folks will also finger this differently. You could, for example, do this, right? I prefer not to in this situation because I'm going to end up with 1 finger per fret. Now, there are ways to play pentatonic, so you never have to use 1 finger per fret, and then you know you might end up with this sort of fingering. So that might be a longer conversation, why I do what I do and why I like what I've worked up for myself, because it's part of a system, and that has helped me tremendously find my way on the fretboard and be non-dependent of keys and just be, you know, fit everywhere. And plus it really sheds your technique, and if you're able to do these string jumps clean and legato, meaning no spaces in between, you know, like that, it has a lot of benefits, because a lot of grooves, you know, a lot of grooves do that, and it's something that, even though, you know, some grooves I might actually end up doing this, like for example this one, that's I Feel Love. There's this was really done by it's Donna Summers, I think. I hope this is right, but it is a not a bass plays the original. It's a Georgia Moroder line, I think, and the Flea and the Chili Peppers, they covered it. And when I saw Flea do this live, you know, at Blazing Tempo, I was like, wow, you know, because it's done with an effect in the original. It's like some sort of Hocket delay. But in any event, there's a lot of this going on, but that's all you ever need. The whole song is this, you know, so I don't bother to make it 1 finger per fret because I never need 1 finger per fret in this scenario. But if I had like just a triad in there, then I need this string crossing, and that comes in very handy. So I definitely recommend you check out your every single finger string crossing, just pick a fret and just practice it. And the way to do it is to just sort of inch your finger over the string while you're on it. Keep it ringing. Don't do this, because that'll change the note. But you want to just sort of slide over the string. So that's really good exercise. Let me check in here on you peeps. Love music theory too. Yes, it's a very helpful. It's a helpful concept, and on the bass, music theory is so beautiful because it's all about shapes, you know. And shapes, you put good fingering on a shape, and you have it under your belt. You move it up and down, and you're all set. So the bass is a very theory-friendly scenario. And while I talk about fingering, I always like to talk about good technique because they go hand in hand. So that's very helpful. I'd like to watch how you play only in high E and B strings horizontally over the fret. High E. High E, is that the guitar player speaking? I don't have a high E string. I only have a low E string. But high, you know, it's so confusing. This is high up in space, right? But B and E strings are low, so they're my low B strings. So maybe you mean high in space E and B string. I guess that's what you mean, Jonathan. Tongham, sorry, Chan. So horizontally across the fretboard. So I think, is this what you mean? Is this what you mean? I hope this is what you mean. So what I recommend you practice is doing that with every single finger. And you make them connected. And the pinky. It's a tough one. So, and then you can do exercises like, you know, doing this on 2 strings, and then 3, backwards, or 4, or 5, or 6, you know. So it's a great exercise also for a guitar player. For guitar players. Are you performing live this year? Yes, aside from right now. I am having a website, arianacap.com. It's not entirely updated, sorry, but I got a gig in the Bay Area in early June. I'm playing in London later this year. I'm playing in Los Angeles and San Francisco in a solo bass show. And I have a bunch of situations where I play as part of other bands. So I try to do better keeping my website up to date, but it's arianacap.com, and there is a section with dates. I also have something pending in Redwood City, and there are a few things coming up, and lots of internet stuff, teaching and playing. So, what's up? Music Theory Wall Start Chill available for purchase. Yes, we just did a reprint, Jonathan. Thank you for your interest. I have a wall chart with all the most important bits of music theory for the bass player. It's available on Amazon.com or on my website, arisbassblog.com. That's where you get the teaching materials. Oh, that's vertical. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That is vertical. But you wanted, well, is it? Oh yeah, horizon. Horizon is this. But then I'm not sure what you mean. Only in high E horizontally. You mean this? Or you mean the scale? I don't understand the question. Do you want to hear just the scale? Was that what you meant? Or this? Is that what you meant? Tops 2 strings linear. I am so sorry. I am so confused. You mean what I did earlier here? You mean that? High E and B. There is no high E and B on the bass. It's a low E and a B. String, in terms of strings, that's the low E and the low B. Okay, and what key would you like that in? So, I think you wanted this, right? Now see, here is the thing. On the bass, this will be more applicable and more often what you use, because down here you're gonna be down here it's gonna be very muddy, you know. Especially this string starts to not sound that good if you're, you know, up here. It just starts to sound a little bit muddy. But if you do, you know, things like that with pentatonics, for example, then you can do some fun stuff. Okay, I had so much prepared that I need the tracks for. But let's see, I showed you the technique exercises. Okay, well, one thing that's always fun to do when you're practicing a new scale is to make an exercise out of it that I call groove and fill. So yeah, I think I just did that, Chan, right? But I don't see much utility for it, just in terms of doing it only on the lowest 2 strings, just because it's just gonna sound really muddy. It just sounds really muddy. So I don't like using this string up here, because, you know, this note is the same as this. So I can, if I need something in that lower range, then I can do it here. I can do it here, and I get the same effect, just not with the low, with the slightly dull sounding 5th string. I love that Blues Brother practice track on your course, by the way. Super fun. Awesome. That's great to hear, Jonathan. Okay, I was going to show you. What was I going to show you? So, oh yeah, groove and fill. That's one of my favorite exercises, folks. It's a really fun one. I mentioned earlier there are really 5 shapes, right? So you can practice this with all 5 shapes or just with one. But the idea is you pop in a track. Let me see if I can get iReal Pro to work. Maybe I can do that. Oh, yeah. That's gonna rock. Okay, so I can improvise here. See, we can do that. Okay, so, okay, here is a C7 chord that's looping. And now, of course, I can't see you all anymore. Here we go. Okay, I got you. Here is how this, for example, works. Groove and fill, Windows, galore. Where's Arial Pro? Here. Arial Pro practice software, of course. If you guys don't know it, it's a great tool. And what is this? A shuffle? Nah, I don't want to shuffle right now. I don't feel like a shuffle. I feel more like a funky thing in C7. Oh well. Let's see if this works. Nah, not my favorite. Let's see. How about some rock stuff? Okay, that'll work. Do y'all hear that background track a little bit? Somebody give me a heads up if that's working for you. And here comes this groove and fill exercise. So what's important about it is that you go groove, fill. And for whoever said they're on the beginner end of things, really just spend a minute and just try to count out those 4 beats. Groove and fill, okay? And then you do groove, and then fill, use the pentatonic. Groove, groove, and fill, groove. You can play quarter notes, and groove, groove, fill, groove. And then if you know all shapes, you can go up and do the same exercise with all shapes. So, the idea being 2 things. You shed your shape. That's one idea. And the other idea is that you learn to separate groove city from fill city. And I want to always make that disclaimer. This is an exercise, okay? When you are in a band, don't fill every single or second bar. That would be way too busy. But when you practice these fills, you get a whole bunch of stuff under your fingers, you know, and other things that are cool is like if you spend a whole song like that, you know, and then once all of a sudden you get you like there's a little space for you and you go and just go back in your little cubby again, you know, in your C spot there on the lower side of things. This can be very effective, you know, to just slide up, and there's my little box, big box in C, or, you know, this way, or in minor. Now here's the cool thing. The track that I was just using, that was the C7, and I can actually use the C7 for either the major or the minor pentatonic. That is a cool feature of the 7 chord. Now, if I do the minor pentatonic, I get the chord C7, right? So that means the guitar player, the piano player, even the bass player, when we're grooving, we're playing the major third because a dominant 7 chord has a major third in it. But when I solo, I can play the minor pentatonic or something called the blues scale, because there is something called a blue note, actually 3 of them, flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7 are considered the 3 blue notes, and they create a bit of a rub, actually quite a lot of a rub, because what I have is in my chords, I'm playing this E, right, and somebody on top, can I reach the pedal? That's the question. So I can. And somebody on top is playing the E flat. You hear that rub between the E and the E flat? If I isolate that, golly, that doesn't sound good. It sounds harsh. It's an interval called the flat 9. But because a blues or a dominant 7 chord is all about tension, not flat 9, sharp 9, sorry, sharp 9. But because the blues is all about tension, that rub between the minor third in the chord and the flat 3 all the way on top, playing a solo, is cool. Okay, so let me play you that same track, but now I'm going to improvise or play groove and fill using the minor pentatonic, and it's going to work. It's going to sound quite different. First, establish a groove. Here we go. Groove. Fill. Groove. Right? So that note I get when I play the minor pentatonic over a dominant 7 chord. And it sounds a bit more bluesy, a bit more funky, and it has that rub in there that drove the classical music theorists crazy because that's considered a forbidden interval, the flat 9. So we get that, but we are doing okay with it because it is the blues, and the blues tells a story about a heartache and a pain. So that's part of this whole sound spectrum. Wish you good luck in your journey. Just wake up with my guitar this morning. Happened to see the TrueFire program. Cheers, Jen. Great approach. Alternating between groove and fill. It's like taking a bite out of the groove now and again. No overkill on the groove or overtaxing your fill lick reserve. Exactly. Recap 561612. Yep, that was Sujanyam. I hope I'm saying your name right. So that's that was back to this exercise where we're going. You know, you see it on your sheet really, because we have the scale degrees in there, right? So you can follow along. 5 6 1 6 1 2 1 2 3 2 3 5 3 5 6 5 6 8 or 1, and then you do the same thing backwards. Yeah, 1 6 5 6 5 3, not 2 6 1. So you always want to go. I think it's on one of those things, you know, where you think it through or do it in a key you know really well, where you can easily associate, hey, the E in C major, that's a 3, right? This A, that's a 6, and then you just do it in a world you know really well, and then you start transposing it to other keys, because that's where it gets really interesting, you know. It's when you then start really getting to know a key, and it helps you tremendously for improvising. Cool. Any questions, folks? Bring them on. So we've covered the fact that I can play major or minor pentatonic over a dominant 7 chord. That's only true for the dominant 7 chord and not the other way around. If you wanted to play a major pentatonic over a minor 7, that would be not good, like at all. That would not sound pretty. Okay, groove and fill. Right, I was just thinking, or there's a handout. Yes, there was a link earlier on. Wait, can I snatch that for you? It just kind of showed up. Yeah, there's a link. Oh, I kind of can't. Oh yeah, I can. Here's the goods. I think I'm doing that right. Yeah, those are the 2 box shapes that I'm using today, that I'm showing you. There's the little box, big box, and then the big box, little box. And it's so incredible often how things just work out symmetrically. I got big box, little box for the minor, and little box, big box for the major. Okay, there's a song y'all know most likely that uses the major pentatonic, and I was scouring the internet yesterday looking for major pentatonics. I was like, oh my God, half of that info out there is wrong because it's really minor pentatonic. But here's one y'all know. Right? What was it? Big price. There's a delay, so you... What was that song? And here's another one in minor. So I'm pretty sure y'all got the one I just played. The next one's a little bit harder. I'll give you the tip that it's by the same artist. So it's by the same artist, and this is an example for minor, and I'm transposing this to both match. Yep, Sir Duke, you got it. 100 points, and as many washing machines as you can carry. That's your price. And here's one in minor. What is that one? It's also by Stevie. And if you look at this line here, it's exactly what I showed you earlier. Groups of three. It's exactly that line. And there it is. So who can get that one? That wins you twice as many washing machines as you can carry. Anyone? I'll play you the bass line. Anyone? It starts, it's not a sir, but it's a master blaster. And if it comes now up with, oh, there you go. You got it. Char, D, and Z has got it. Wins the prize. Excellent. Yep, Master Blaster. So there's tons and tons of songs that show the use of pentatonics, and once you see them and hear them, you can sharpen your ears for them. So now I want to show you, let's see, I do have, I can't do this, but I can fake it with this thing. One cool thing you can do with pentatonics, and this I don't consider, you know, well, I don't want to say I don't consider beginner stuff, but there's a way how you can use pentatonics. And we, in our school, where I learned, in one of the schools I learned, we called it upper structure pentatonics. But you can use a pentatonic not over the root C, but over a different root and create a slight polytonality that way. And that's a really cool sound. And this is considered advanced only, if you will, because this would be something I would do in a solo. For a groove, we're really responsible of laying out the tonality. You know, we don't want to go fancy. We don't want to go out and create polytonality because that will confuse the sound of the song, except if it's that kind of song. That does exist, of course, as well. But in general, if your chord says C, has something with C attached to it, don't play a pentatonic from a different root, because that is what I'm about to show you. So in essence, we're playing a C major pentatonic over, for example, a B flat chord. Let me dial that in here. And now, oh, I do need a major now, though. Sorry, Mr. B.B. King, I'm going to edit your song for a second. And we will just make that a major and save that. And I think we just did that, did we? Not, oh, save, yeah. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to play and save, get out of edit. Here we go. So now I'm going to dial this in. So again, I'm playing a B. This chord has now changed. So what changed? The only thing that changed is the chord of my band here. Okay, and I'm going to keep playing major pentatonic over it. And that creates actually a Lydian sound, because if you now relate everything I play from the root B flat, then we get, when I play the C, that's no longer the 1, it's the 2 now, right? Because B flat's the 1. So that's the 2, and then the D would be the 3. The E would be the sharp 11. That's why people often talk about this as a Lydian sound. Lydian is a mode, and it's just a major scale with a sharp 11 or sharp 4. So I get the 9, the 3rd, beautiful, the sharp 11. I get the 6 or 13, and I get the major 7. So it's just beautiful how that happens to work out. Now let me just dial that in so you can get, and I'll use that same shape, but I'm going to take it up an octave, then you hear it a little bit more as a solo type of scenario rather than a groove type of scenario. Here we go. Of course, this is entirely the wrong style here, but let me see if this works a little better. Even eighths jazz. Okay, let's try that. But the idea being, you hear the two tonalities. You hear the B flat in the chords, and you hear me playing the C major pentatonic, which gives it a Lydian sound. Didn't dial in the loop here. I'll go crazy. So that's a much more modern sound, and it sounds a little bit out. It's not exactly what you'd expect, but it has a nice polytonality to it. And I can do that with a couple of chords. I can also do that if I dial in, let's say, for example, an F major. And if I dial in an F major, let's do the same trick here with the major pentatonic over an F. So if the chord is F and I play my C, and as related from the F, that's a 5, right? And I got the 5 and the 6 and the major 7 and the 2. Those are all beautiful tones that sound beautiful because somebody's holding down the chord, right? So let's not forget that. Again, don't use that for grooving, maybe for a fill or something, but you are responsible to lay down the regular tones of the F major as long as you are grooving. But when you are soloing, you can use these notes because they create this cool sound of the 9 and the 13 and the major 7, and that just sounds really beautiful. So let's dial that in. You guys can hear it. And think of any questions you might have, pentatonics theory, technique. So this one sounds much more inside than the 1 over B flat because Lydian has much more, the sharp 11 really pops. This one is more inside sounding, but it gives you the major 7 sound, and it's beautiful because it uses a lot of non-chord tones, but notes that are part of the scale. If you ever want to practice, here's a great exercise, and I think I'll close it down with that. So give me some more questions if you have them, and then but here's an exercise. I call it the noodle 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 stay exercise. Helps folks who need help with counting. So again, I apologize for the background track. That's not entirely what I wanted to use, but that's what we got. And here is the noodle, 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 noodle stay exercise. Here's the trick about it. And when I say noodle, I'm going to play 8th notes, okay? That's why I say noodle. When I say stay, I'm going to start sitting on a note. And the purpose of this exercise is during the stay part, you get to hear how every single note of the scale relates to the sound that you're playing. And in order to do that, I'm going to go back to my B flat track and get you a little bit of this Lydian sound because I just think I like that sound. Just right now. It always depends on the context, but right now I'm into that. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to just play the little box, big box pattern in C major. I'll play it up here so it pops a little more. And I'm going to relate it to the B flat tonality. and I'm going to do my noodles. That's just Philly stuff using that pentatonic, little box, big box, no big thinking involved. But then I'm going to stay on every single note, and I'm going to try to say it. Okay, that's the 2. That's what the 2 sounds like. Okay, cool. Noodle, 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 stay. Okay, that's the 3. So that way you guys can hear it. I want to hear afterwards what the favorite is. Okay, so tell me, hey, that one's my favorite. I got one favorite, and I'll tell you afterwards what it is. Noodle, 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 stay. So that's the 9. Stay, right? Sharp 11. Now I'm going to stay on the 3. Sounds very inside, right? That's the 13. Major 7. So now I've done all of them, right? And it's a really good exercise to sort of just figure it out with all of them. Still a bit fast to hear. I'm going to slow that down a tiny little bit. I'm going to go in order this time. I'm going to just go in order off the scale, and you guys can hear and tell me which one's your favorite. Nope, I need to do this. Here we go. Noodle, 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 stay. That's the 9. That's the 3rd. Sharp 11. 13. Major 7. 9. I'm just staying in that shape, right? So what's your favorite? What's your favorite? I have my favorite. I'll tell you as soon as I hear somebody tell me their favorite. So that's when people say, you know, pentatonics are boring. What I do is I play them either Sir Duke or Master Blaster or an upper structure pentatonic, you know, because pentatonics are really deep and beautiful, and you can use them in so many configurations. So favorite sounded great, but not sure what you meant by noodle. Okay, the noodle part's exercise has 2 components, right? Noodle, that's 8th notes. Noodle, 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 stay. Noodle, 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 stay. So oftentimes, especially in the beginning, when you just start trying to figure out the notes and the rhythm and all of that, it's easy to lose your space. So these little games, as goofy as they are, help. Noodle, 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 stay. Right? I had one student who had a really hard time with that, so what we did was noodle Monday, noodle Tuesday, stay, right? Because that way he had words to sort of thing. This stuff is much better than counting, because for counting we always have to think, and that pops us out of feeling it. I want you to feel the rhythm. When you feel the rhythm, it's much better to be free improvising. See, because you can't really 1 and 2, and that just is not the space you want to be in. So the noodling, all I'm doing is playing 8th notes rhythmically, and what I'm doing in terms of yes, I'm just, in terms of notes, is I'm just using pentatonic shaped notes. Yeah, so all I'm doing is, and you know, in this case, I was just using 8th notes really, you know, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. You can do that with all sorts of scales. You know, you can do that with the root. You can pop in a C in your looper or in your you know, iReal Pro or whatever you're using, Band in a Box, and then you play these different things over, and you stand on every single scale degree, and you know, you will find out. For example, just to make another case for pentatonics, nobody's telling me their favorites. I need to hear what your favorite is, guys. I know it's a bit of a trick question because it really depends on context. But for example, if I do this noodle, 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 stay exercise with a C major, and I don't use pentatonic, but I'm going to use the major scale with all the bad notes in it, right? I'm going to sit on that bad note and you're going to hear it. So let's check this out. I'm going to do it just the same way, but I'm noodling now with the C major scale, regular C major scale, okay? And here it comes. Every single scale degree. Root, that's the 1. I'll do that one again. Harsh. The 5 sounds great. 6, beautiful. That's the 7. To my ears, that sounds really beautiful because it's the major 7 and we're so used to that chord these days, but there were times where that was considered sounding a little harsh too, you know. In some contexts, if you think of like a folk song or something, that might not be the best note to use. But yeah, that's my noodle, 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 noodle stay exercise. And I'm going to tell you one more thing about noodling with pentatonics. You know, when you do that exercise, it sounded good. I'll go with sharp 11. Mine too, sharp 11. I'm going to try myself. Yeah, go for it, guys. It's a fun exercise. And it gives you confidence, you know, because on the solo, you might know you know, a lot can be played in the service of a transition, but where you sit, where you spend a bunch of time, that should be a note that sounds good. You know, you don't want to sit on a note that goes, oh, never mind, screwed it up a half a step. So it gives you confidence because you know the 9 is going to sound like this. 3rd, well, that's a chord tone. That's going to sound inside, you know. 4th on a major, don't use it. That was what I was just trying to demonstrate when I was really sitting on that F. That F and the 3rd in the chord, once again, create this flat 9 chord that we had earlier between the sharp 9 and the 3rd, and it's just a really harsh sound. You can sometimes get away with it depending on where it is. If it's a dominant chord, it's all about tension anyway. But in a lot of cases, that's just a not so good note considered. If it's a transition note, that's fine, but sitting on it, not so good. So that's why we oftentimes use the sharp 11 instead of the, you know, regular 11 when we're soloing. Even on a major chord, you know, if I do that same thing and instead change my scale to Lydian. So Lydian, again, is just a major scale with a sharp 11. Instead of kicking that F out of the family like the pentatonic would do, I'm just raising it by half a step and all is good. Listen to that for just 1 second. Right, if I sit on that now, noodle, 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 stay. Better than this one. This thing doesn't play me as many chords as I'd like, but I think it was still audible. So that this F is just sounding really harsh over the E, you know, but the F sharp, that's prettier. On the bass, of course, it's all mud C. That's better. So that's the sound you want to avoid, flat 9, but sharp 11 sounds great. You know another trick for pentatonics? If you want to sound like fusion, you know, wild modern, then you can use pentatonics, but don't use them in order because, you know, that's not the world we want to go in when we're playing a fusion solo. But what you can do is play it really angular, and that has a super cool effect. Listen to that. Now, if you use the pentatonic that way, especially an upper structure pentatonic, right? If I were to dial in my B flat again, you would hear it even more so. It's a really modern sound, and all it really is pentatonic. Creates a bit of a challenge technically because you have to do a lot of string crossing, you know, if you want to resort to that. In a pinch, I guess it works, but it's a good skill, you know, to practice these guys. Although again, sometimes I will do that because it'll save my fingers if it's a groove that just goes to the flat 7, for example. Okay, y'all, how you doing? I'm going way over here. Started a little late, but got it together. It's always such a pleasure to be on TrueFire. I'm, again, really proud and happy for all the reactions I've been getting for this course. It's just been amazing. I've made so many friendships, met so many bass players over Pentatonic Playground for Bass, which I was so happy to put out with TrueFire. So please do check it out. It's got free samples on YouTube, and there's all 5 shapes of the pentatonic scale are in there, and how to play them technically, and we're going to use them in a blues, and we're going to you know, talk about soloing using major pentatonic and minor pentatonic. And erstwhile Sadie says, I learned a lot as a guitar player. That's nice to hear. Okay, everybody, gonna wait a little more if there are any more questions, but I'm super stoked y'all waited through the beginning technical challenges, so thank you so much for that, and thanks a ton to all the TrueFire people for their help. I can't say it enough, and to Wolf and everybody for hanging in there. You can find me at respaceblock.com. I put out new blog posts every week. I put out a lot of free teaching. I answer questions on Quora, and all my TrueFire friends, please feel free to email me with any questions. And yeah, great for being on, and thank you all for tuning in. All right, I shall say goodbye and sign off, and yeah, cool. Right on, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day, whatever time it is right now in your end of the world. I'm gonna have dinner now. Okay, cheers, everyone.